Hi, Luke. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. It's nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well.
Nice. How's Chicago so far? We like it? We're getting acclimated?
Loving Chicago, absolutely acclimated. So I've been told that I've been very lucky with the winter so far. It's been a very mild winter, though we did have some. We had about a week and a half in the early January that was pretty aggressively cold. But all in all, really enjoying Chicago. Feels like a slightly smaller, cleaner New York in a way, which is a good thing. Very friendly people, great food. Yeah, very happy to be here.
Good, good. That's a good way to put it. I've never thought of Chicago that way as a smaller, cleaner New York. I like that.
Right.
That's
Okay.
funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
So, what we like to do on our podcast, we love to get inside the characters' heads. That's a lot of fun for us. So, a lot of our
Hmm.
questions are going to be kind of like that. So, just to kind of
Right.
give you a primer. So, yeah,
Yeah.
there have been some really nice moments between Ripley and Dr. Charles this season, and we have kind of really dove into that and kind of talking about their dynamic and how Ripley views Dr. Charles. We have
Hmm.
debated quite a bit if Ripley has already forgiven Dr. Charles for what happened when Ripley was younger. What do you think of that? Do you think he's forgiven him?
It is a great question. I don't think that's something that Ripley would be able to articulate himself. I think that that is swirling around in him and probably feels like he knows it needs to happen, but whether he actually has or hasn't, it yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's such a deep-seated thing that has formed such an integral part of who he is. I think there's part of him that has or wants to, and I think there's part of him that doesn't want to and wants to hold on to it. Maybe I certainly feel like we're going to continue to explore that, and there will be things from Ripley's past that will continue to pop up and bring the bring the past into the present, no matter how hard Ripley tries to keep the past in the past.
Right, right. And do you think that maybe, I mean, again, it's fun for us to theorize and just throw these things around. Do you think
Yeah.
that, Dr. Charles being at Med factored into Ripley's decision, or do you think it just kind of happened that way?
My understanding is that it is actually purely coincidental, that it wasn't about, tracking him down and trying to there's no I don't think there was ever revenge, or there was no intention of look at me now or anything like that. I think that is coincidental.
Interesting, interesting. So I understand that Dr. Charles and Ripley work pretty closely together in this coming week's episode. What can you tease about that?
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, a very specific example of OCD and the way that how it transpires, and the way that they have to eventually go about treating or helping this patient is a little unorthodox, which makes it a really interesting episode, and it was a really, I want to say fun, but it's not fun because it's an emotional storyline, but it's because it's unorthodox, because it's Ripley and Charles figuring out their dynamic and coming at something from two different places. It made it an enjoyable storyline to play out, a challenging storyline, but an enjoyable one as an actor. Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? I'm not sure if I responded to that accurately.
No, you're good. We were just asking what can you can tease about this week's episode.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's another stepping stone on Ripley's relate on the journey of their relationship, figuring out who what their relationship is professionally and what their profession relationship is personally. Yeah, it's a very specific case, but yet another stepping stone.
Were you surprised at all when you kind of saw? I mean, obviously, you've only been playing Ripley for 6 episodes, but were you surprised at all when you saw how willing Ripley was to work with Dr. Charles again?
No, no, because I think Ripley understands that, once he knew that they're working in the same hospital. I think he knew that it was only going to be inevitable that they would have to work together. And I think Ripley really prides himself on his professionalism, on his prowess as a doctor. And so I think, despite whatever challenges that presents to him personally and emotionally, he has to meet those head on. Obviously, that makes for interesting TV.
For sure, for sure. So, what is it like working with Oliver?
It's a dream. It's a dream. He's a lovely, lovely person, first and foremost. But I think for an actor of his caliber to be working, on network TV for one, but on a show for so long, this is the 9th season. I think that says a lot, and I've spoken to him a lot about it, and he just genuinely loves what he does, and he loves this show, and he cares so deeply about the show and his character and mental health. And I just love that. And each and every day that I have to work with him is a joy, because I know that I need to bring my A game. I know that I need to be on my toes and ready to catch the ball, even if I'm not meant to catch the ball, because that's just who he is. He's always trying to make the scene better, whether it's maybe slightly tweaking a line or a moment, or adjusting the blocking, or whatever it is, or just throwing me an idea. It's always a workshop with him, which is just so lovely. And I'm sure just not the case for many other shows, especially network TV shows, network TV shows going into their 9th season and beyond. I think it would be easy to become a little mechanical or robotic, or just be going through the motions. It's just not the case with him. He's an absolute professional, and yeah, I can't talk highly enough of him.
That's great. That's great. So, in the 6 episodes we've already learned quite a bit about Ripley's backstory, which we don't always get with new characters in One Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
As an actor,
Mm-hmm.
has that made getting into character a lot easier, having so much of his past?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I feel very blessed to be playing Ripley, but to have as much information as I do, and that's really great, because that just helps me to ground him in the way that he needs to be grounded. But naturally, the way that network TV works is that there will be bits and pieces of information that are inserted into the story as the storyline grows and evolves, that perhaps I didn't know about, initially, and that's just par for the course. What the starting point and what I've had to work with so far has been extremely helpful.
Good, good. So there have been a few references to Ripley's family, like with his mother. We've had the best friend come back in. Do you know if we're going to explore that dynamic any further?
I don't know, but I would assume, I think it makes sense to continue to bring Ripley's past into his present, to challenge him, also to challenge him and create drama, but also to learn more about him, and maybe see a more vulnerable side to him. I think that's what's going to be interesting moving forwards, as he gets, as his relationships with various characters, as they become closer, he'll have to let them in. Dr. Charles is the only one who knows something of his past, and I think there's a wall up. Ripley protects himself, and this new, he protects himself, and this professionalism and this job is everything to him, and he doesn't want to let anything get in the way of that, because he didn't come from a very good place. It was a challenging childhood, and as much as that will never go away, I think he literally built himself from the ground up. So
Great, great. And something fans have noticed quite a bit is there's a little dynamic between Ripley and Hannah happening. So,
oh, yeah.
little one, I don't know if you picked up on it, tiny, but uh, what's your thought on them? Do you think that they could work?
As a couple, is that
Maybe?
what you're implying?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. It's a very good question. Look, what I will say is that they do have a really interesting dynamic, and I think the writers are doing a really good job of planting seeds and of interactions in different ways, and then you get to see them work together, which puts Ripley in the deep end, because he's out of his comfort zone, and that's really interesting. And then he gets to see someone really excel at their specialty, and yeah, it's I think there's a lot there between the two characters. I think there's a lot of commonality, But I think maybe Dr. Asher is the one that will challenge him to open up and, to perhaps reveal a little bit more of himself and his past. And that'll be an interesting challenge for their relationship, whatever shape that may take, whether it's strictly professional, whether it's friends, whether it's something more. That may be a roadblock, or not. Maybe that's the key.
Great, great. Well, I am out of time, but thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I appreciate it. Very nice to meet you.
You're very
And yeah,
welcome. Yeah,
welcome to
nice to meet you
Med.
too. Thank you very much. Thank you.